Charlotte.
Hi Alexa.
Thanks ever so much for coming to talk to me today.
You're more than welcome.
It's Mental Health Awareness Week and the focus is on body image. So I've asked you to come and talk to me really and have a conversation with me about it, just because I know a bit about your background and I thought your point of view might be quite insightful, and also from quite an experience that you've had working in different industries. So would you be able to just tell everyone who you are? And
Yeah, so I'm Charlotte. I'm currently Managing Director of Healing Manor Hotel. My background actually started off in the fashion industry, so a bit diverse from the hospitality industry. Yes. So I actually fell into fashion styling, so working with a lot of celebrities, working on a lot of television programmes, magazines.
Right.
The glamorous life of a stylist. Yeah, and then ended up working with food.
Yeah. So actually both of those areas are quite integral, aren't they, to body image, and you'll have come across all sorts of things, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with body image, kind of to start with, it's working as a stylist, you're not necessarily looking at the body side of it, and often you're not looking at the people, which is really bad in a way. And it is more about the clothes and the finished product, and it's quite a vain industry to work in, and I think that's actually a part of the reason I came out of the industry, because I fell out of love with it. And then ironically moving into the food industry, I could never fit in the clothes in the fashion industry, whereas at least working with food you get to eat it.
Get to enjoy it.
I'm alright with that. I don't mind. So yeah. But I mean I've worked with everything from designer clothes, jewellery that costs more than you'd ever make in a lifetime. It's in some ways ridiculous, but in other ways quite exciting.
Yes.
And in terms of working with people, I've worked with people of all different ages and sizes, like I say, well-known names, and it's really interesting getting to know the people behind the perception that's created through their characters or their celebrity statuses. Yeah,
so it's that persona that people put out. Because I'm always curious about that, because obviously there's lots of talk about the impact of social media and the media in general on how people see themselves, and there's a lot of research that shows that women are really affected by what they see, and if you have a control group of people who are looking at something completely different, they have a different response to the ones who are looking at those images all the time. And I'm always interested about that persona, and actually, we see images of people in those industries who look very confident about themselves and are obviously portrayed that way, but what's the reality in terms of those insecurities or those things that might be going on behind it?
Well, I think the reality is there's a lot of people, and there's often a team behind those individuals. So I always use there's one prime example. So I was working with a client, and I was around at a house. We were trying on some jewellery and some clothes for a programme she was going on, and it was raining outside. So she'd said, "Let me drive you to the tube station. I'm off to the shop." So I was like, "Okay, right, great, fine." Jump the car. There's a paparazzi that's following behind us. A guy on a motorbike. Anyway, dropped me off, and then in the paper, and this is no lie, it was in the Daily Mail. 20 minutes later, the said client was as a headline, so and so going through breakup, basically because she got no makeup on. I wasn't dressed up, and you think, God, how untrue is that situation? It's someone that's just gone to the shops. Do you know what I mean? And it just, for me, that really highlighted how contrived the medium and social media is. And I think now, because of I'll say with Instagram more than Facebook and Twitter, because Instagram's a bit more glamorised.
It's very visual, isn't it?
It's so visual, and I think people are now aware of how contrived the final image is, because people are now opening up the behind the scenes of it. But as people and as consumers, we're still sucked into that finished product, and forget about the reality of the behind the scenes. So whether it's someone with insecurities, or someone that's stressed because the zips just popped open on TV. Do you know what I mean? And it's as consumers, we're so fixated with that perfect finished product, we forget, even though we're aware of the reality,
the reality behind it.
And I think, God, it's quite a scary place to be in.
Yes, it is. I think people also, I mean, I know from a therapeutic point of view, people want that perfection. And if, you know, often there isn't anything as perfect, doesn't exist in any way. You know, if it did, we'd all know exactly what that looked like.
But would we?
Yeah, well,
that's
exactly.
Thing, would we?
Yeah. So a lot of people are working towards trying to be perfect, which we can't attain because it's not there. No. It's not possible. But what we are presented with in the media is stories and narratives really about people's perfections. And there's also something quite voyeuristic about us as well, wanting to see that and believe it, because if we were actually questioning and being critical, you'd see the evidence there that this isn't as it appears.
Absolutely, and this is going back to what I say. It's really scary because I think we're in a place where nobody actually knows what the answer is or the right solution for it. There's I can't remember her name, but there was a blogger. I think she was Australian, and she had an Instagram account, millions of followers. And she sadly committed suicide, and then it came to fruition, like the reality of the depression, the pressure to keep up this perfect image, you know, having to be this social butterfly all the time, and it came to fruition, and it was highlighted by other bloggers and in the media for a portion of time, but then it was very quickly forgotten again, because people fall back into that need of seeking for perfection, seeking for this, and it's an image of perfection, it's not a mental perfection.
No.
And I think that's become so lost, and I think as people we need to get back to being like content with who we are. I mean, I know it's something we have in common, we're both quite tall. 6'1".
Yes.
How tall are you?
6 foot.
6 foot. And like, I know for me, when I was at school, I actually used to research how to have knee removal surgery to make myself shorter. Like, I got so badly bullied, and it was by men rather than women. And I think growing up, you can look back and understand, oh, it's because of their insecurities, not because of your.
And being different, I think. I know I was the same. We were talking earlier. I couldn't get shoes to fit me. I couldn't get trousers. I mean, I think I must be some abnormal creature. And I suppose as I've got older and more confident in myself. My body image, if you like, I've kind of feel like I've grown into and accepted, and I like it. I like the fact that I'm tall. I've got crazy hair that does what it wants on a daily basis. So I can't be invisible, and actually trying to be invisible would put me under an awful lot of strain. So, but I know I've had to do a lot of work on myself to be able to come to that point. Whereas, you know, in some ways it can feel easier to avoid situations if you're not happy with how you look, because of fear of judgment and, you know, people's perceptions of you, and no, it's scary stuff because you don't know what people are thinking about you. You assume you know,
and it's quite, I think for a lot of people now it's so consuming because people are so focused on how many likes am I going to get, or, you know, and actually there's a gratification from this fake world that isn't real. And I think there's a lot to be said about trying to get to a point and working on yourself to be content with yourself. Like you say, you accept your height. Steve, my partner, he's like probably an inch shorter than me, but I still wear heels. Do you know what I mean? And he doesn't care, and I know like Matt's the same. They're very much like, do you know what, be who you are. And you've got to love yourself for it. And I think there's a few habits I picked up in styling, and I was lucky that I was so young when I did it that I became quite content with myself at a younger age. And it's silly things to like with your wardrobe. So my wardrobe is actually smaller than Steve's wardrobe, which is a bit crazy for a woman. Unusual, but I'm very like cutthroat about if I don't wear something or if something doesn't make me feel good. So we've all got clothes that we were maybe a little bit slimmer and we wore, but you look at it
just in case that happens again.
But actually it's quite a depressing thing because you see that piece of clothing every morning when you open your wardrobe and you're like, oh god, I don't fit in that. Get rid of it. Like there's honestly there's so much to be said about just decluttering all of that and all of the negativity that you hold, or you know, we buy something and we think, oh god, one day I'll wear it. I know that I'm either going to wear black, grey, stripes, maybe a little bit of leopard print, and that's it. And actually, there's no point in trying to be somebody else or trying to fit into what the right way of being is or trends, and actually just kind of like focus on what suits you, what you feel comfortable wearing, and what makes you feel good about yourself.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, we see people who are obviously struggling with how they feel about their body and their body image, and also what they perceive it to be.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's lots of stuff around body dysmorphia and looking in a mirror and not seeing what the reality is.
Yeah.
And I think that's really good advice, in that, you know, if you can feel good in something, actually that's what's important, isn't it? Because that affects how you feel. Whereas for people who are really struggling and get anxious about their body image, I think a lot of the time is because there's a pinnacle that people are trying to get to, and that changes all the time.
And people as well forget that pinnacle, that person that they're trying to be like probably isn't happy within themselves either, and it's this big vicious cycle. And I just think trying to apply a few things and actually working on trying on different clothes, figuring out what shapes suit you, and then being comfortable with it. Honestly, it takes us such a weight. Pressure. Don't get me wrong, there is still things in my wardrobe that I'm like, I need to get rid of that because it doesn't fit me anymore, or it doesn't, you know, it doesn't make me feel good. And it takes a time. So I always say, like, work on a 6-month cycle. So if I've not worn it, just get rid of it, because it takes that weight off your shoulders. Yeah, and changes your expectations, doesn't it? Yeah, definitely. You're actually putting yourself under quite a lot of pressure there. Yeah. And it's you that's doing it to yourself. Yeah, absolutely. And it's not these images or anything else. Yeah. You know, and it's like, okay, like design stuff, buying a Chanel lipstick makes you feel good about yourself, but it's like a momentary thing. And I think people are becoming so materialistic in a way, and again, trying to target themselves on a lifestyle that perhaps isn't within their budgets or their reins. And then it's that, like, setting yourself up, we spoke about it the other day, like setting yourself up to fail, because then you never, like, you can't attain it. But then also, I think because people are aware deep down that once they reach that level they're still not going to be happy anyway, it's this big battle that everyone has in their heads. Yeah, and it is that momentary. I mean, I think that's like that. It's a quite an expensive but relatively quick fix. Yes. But there isn't a quick fix. Is that these things take time to process and to understand, and to understand where those messages about yourself have come from as well, because we've got the messages from media, but we've also got messages from, you know, our upbringing and our schooling and our family and all of those things, and actually to come to a conclusion yourself about how you feel about you, as opposed to what you've been told you should be feeling about you, is actually it's hard work. Oh my god, and it's exhausting. I'm having a battle at the moment, and I put it on my Instagram the other day. I was like, I've never dyed my hair before, but I'm starting to get a bit grey. Like, we blame the stress of Steve. And I was like, God, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm not the kind of person that can invest the time and go in and sit in the hairdresser for 3 hours. But then, knowing my luck, if I do a DIY job, probably like wreck the bathroom. Yeah, wish you'd gone and spent. Yeah, you know. And I've been having this debate for a while, and I'd spoken to my hairdresser a while ago, and he's like, no, just leave it as long as you can. And then some people have stepped forward and said, no, do you know what? Just embrace it. Like, people are not. And that's the thing, I think people, as much as people are becoming so judgmental about things, people are becoming a bit less judgmental, because everyone's now aware of the effect it's having psychologically, you know, on people's mental health. So people are kind of stepping back and not being like, oh, look at the crazy you are. No, you know, embrace it, you know. And I think there's a lot to be said about that, but this is this cycle that I think we're going on. Yeah, and I think that lack of acceptance makes us feel so dissatisfied with ourselves as well, and it's a horrible place to be. I think something that's made a difference for me is actually in the business world, being able to just be myself. So I'm myself there, I'm myself here and at home, and rather than having to feel like, right, I've got to. I remember going to a business conference, and I was going in the morning, and I knew everybody who was there would either be in business suits, or they would be in business, those kind of business dresses, which are quite tricky at this height to get in the right, to get them to fit. Trousers, and I went in a maxi dress, and I felt great all day. But one of the speakers turned up, and he rocked up in a denim shirt and, you know, jeans, and I thought, judged him straight away, like, oh, he's not dressed like everybody else. But actually, he was the best speaker. He was the most entertaining, most engaging, because he was so relaxed about being there, and like okayed himself. And I think that's the thing. People hide behind suits. Don't they? It's that whole, like, people hide behind their titles and their suits, and there is so much more to be said about being comfortable in yourself. And like you say, we can't hide our heights. No. Embrace it. Yeah. Be 10 feet taller than everyone else.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and the same with clothes. Like, I think working in the hotel industry, like we have a uniform with our front of house staff and our management, but we're trying to kind of break it down a little bit, because actually being in a suit can be very, you know, it's such a uniform.
Yeah, and be a barrier to people.
Yeah, whereas actually dressing in something that's still smart but you feel comfortable in, straight away you become more accessible and friendly to people.
Yes, yeah.
And again, I think that's the other thing, like people forget that there's people underneath the clothes. Yeah. The clothes don't matter, it's about the person that's
absolutely.
behind it.
And I do think that we are probably getting a bit better at being able to be individual. Yeah. Because I think that's part of the problem, that people feel like they've got to be like someone else, or they've got to fit into a uniform or whatever. And yes, there's an absolute argument for that all being standardised and everyone looking great, but it's also about how that can be used in an individual way, so people can be creative as well. I think that's really important.
Yeah, completely agree. Completely agree.
Well, thank you ever so much for talking to me.
Thank you for asking.
Great. Taking time out of your busy day.
Oh, Saturday. Yeah. It's not a busy day in the hospitality.
So brilliant. Thanks ever so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.